We had amazing riding conditions in central Japan yesterday. Big powder with just the right density gradient through the snowpack, and we were going for it mainly on 165 and 154 alphas. But we also had a new Arctic Cat Blast in the group, and I was really keen to try it. So for my first ride, I got to compare this 400cc single-cylinder junior sled directly with its Alpha 1 hardcore big brother, riding in the same places and comparing their limits. Now, obviously, they're completely different classes of sleds, but still it was a great way to understand what the Blast is capable of, and also what the Blast rider is going to have in their skill set when they graduate to a full power sled. When you look under the hood of the Blast, it seems like there's been a major production error. Oh my God, someone forgot to install the engine. Then you see this tiny lump of metal way down the bottom and realize that, well, there's something in there. And then you turn the key and again think, oh my God, major production error. They installed a hedge trimmer motor by mistake. But although the engine looks and sounds really dinky, it's definitely an engine, and it's got enough power to give the target rider the right sensations without firing them into a tree if they bang the throttle by mistake. This one had only been running for 70 minutes, so it was still on, I think, stage 2 braking. But even running rich and restrained, it felt way better to ride than one of those god-awful 4-stroke Yamaha phases from years back, which were kind of targeting the same audience. Oh, it goes! One of the first things I noticed riding the Blast was the feel of the layback steering, which is different from the usual Cat geometry. When you put it on edge, it feels like a skidoo. So if you ride a skidoo, like I do, when I do, you'll get the balance point straight away. But if you come off a Cat or Polaris, it might feel a bit weird for a while. Anyway, I can see why Cat has done the steering this way, because this sled's all about getting people going in the sport, minimising the physical barrier, so I think the geometry is probably a good choice. It feels like a proper sled when you plug your body into the touch points. Even for an adult, the running boards, the bars, the seat, they all make sense. They're just scaled down a bit. Actually, I found it kind of morphing back and forth between seeming like a toy and seeming like the real deal. Parked among all the other sleds, it looks the real deal. It's got great decals and it just looks like a real mounted sled. Then you get on it and the shrunk down dimensions make it seem like a toy. But then you tip it on edge through some powder and it starts to feel like the real deal. But then you hear that tinny, monotonous engine and it's a toy again. So back and forth you go. Here I'm working my way up the slope. I'd been flaying earlier in the morning on the hardcore. The Blast is clearly not about the power rush. But by working the angles, I was making progress. Until I wasn't. So if you're used to thrashing through the mountains with 160 horsepower and 3-inch pedals, you do need to recalibrate when you get on the Blast, because even though the snow looks just as inviting, and you kind of feel like you're on a real sled, that little motor and those little lugs won't get you quite so far. Just thinking about it now, I've realised that this moment right here is the first time that I've run out of snowmobile before running out of me. All the grown-up sleds I ride are capable of way more than I am, but with the Blast, I was the king. So if you can ride a bit, but aren't a hero, it's worth jumping on the Blast just for that ego boost of having the sled run out of talent before you do. It's like being a small fish in a big pond. A big pond and a small fish. What is it? Small pond and a big lake. One of those things. So after my, maybe half an hour on the Blast, I'd say overall Cat has done a fantastic job. It does exactly what it's meant to do. Anyone riding a Blast is going to have a great day in the mountains, and they're going to be able to ride pretty much anywhere, so long as there's someone to break trail in the steeper, deeper stuff. It looks super cool. It's going to have a lot of kids burning to get one. And not only kids. We're in a male-dominated sport, but with a sled like this, there's no reason why more women can't get into it and see that technique gets you a lot further than physical strength before moving up to a full-size sled. No one needs to feel ashamed for riding a Blast. It's a proper snowmobile. It's really cool and it's not intimidating. I've only ridden it once, so I can't really find any faults. Haven't lived with the thing. Maybe I'd narrow the stance just a smidge to make it a bit more mountain tippy. It's got a wider track than a full-size sled, and I don't think it needs it. By the way, the tunnel is also 2 centimeters wider. I would put a bumper on it though, because this thing is easily good enough to go in the trees, and some of those trees are going to leap out and hit it in the nose. And I do something about that sound because it is depressingly lame. Also, I know it doesn't need it, and it's not the point, but there must be more power to get out of that engine. Especially when I think about the old Yamaha twins and the wicked power band they have. I know they're twins, but still. Anyway, I hope we'll see lots of aftermarket parts come out as people find ways to turn up the dial on this thing. It's going to be great. Yeah, it's kind of expensive, but then again, snowmobiling is expensive. It just is. And I think these things are going to give you back most of your money when it's time for someone else to own it. If you're addicted to snowmobiling, you want to get your kids or girlfriend into it and think the planet has got a few more years of snowy winters left, there's nothing else like it on the market. I would definitely go for it. Blast.
You like it?
Yeah, it's fun. Look at the bag you go, helmet. You've been naughty.